The morning sun cast long shadows across the Saharan landscape, and through her scope, Staff Sergeant Olivia Reeves could barely make out the terrorist compound nearly 8 miles away. Her spotter, Corporal David Mercer, lowered his binoculars and shook his head. "Liv, that shot is impossible. Even if you account for wind drift, the bullet will drop over 30 feet. But Olivia had something to prove. Not just to her unit, not just to the skeptics back home who said a woman from small-town Idaho could never make it in the elite ranks of military snipers, but to herself. What happened next would go down as one of the most extraordinary demonstrations of marksmanship in modern special operations history. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're watching from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. Olivia Reeves was never supposed to be perched on that rocky outcropping in North Africa. Growing up in the quiet town of Riverbend, Idaho, she was the youngest daughter of a forest ranger who taught her to respect nature and understand its rhythms. While other kids her age were glued to their phones and social media, Olivia spent her childhood hiking through dense forests, learning to move silently and observe her surroundings with remarkable attention to detail. Her father, Michael Reeves, had served as a Marine before becoming a ranger, and he passed on his military discipline and love for marksmanship to his daughter. On weekends, they would venture deep into the wilderness where he set up makeshift ranges. "Shooting isn't about aggression," he would tell her. "It's about patience, breath control, and becoming part of your environment." Olivia's extraordinary talent emerged when she was just 15. During a family hunting trip, her older brother Marcus had been boasting to his friends about his shooting skills. When they came across a small rock formation with a distinctively shaped stone at the top, Marcus bet he could hit it from 400 yards away. 3 shots, 3 misses, Olivia recalled later. When his friends started teasing him, I asked if I could try. Her brother reluctantly handed over his rifle, certain his little sister would fare no better. Olivia took a moment to feel the breeze on her face, adjusted her position slightly, and squeezed the trigger with a steady hand. The distinctive ping of a bullet striking stone rang out across the valley. She had hit the target on her first attempt. "Beginner's luck," Marcus had muttered. But when she repeated the feat twice more, even her skeptical brother had to admit, there was something special about Olivia's natural ability. Word of her talent spread quickly through their small community. The local hunting club invited her to participate in their competitions, where she consistently outperformed shooters 3 times her age. By 17, she had set several regional records in precision rifle competitions. What set Olivia apart wasn't just steady hands or exceptional eyesight, though she possessed both. It was her intuitive understanding of how environmental factors affected a bullet's path. She could feel subtle changes in wind direction, sense how humidity and temperature would influence her shot, and make split-second calculations that seemed almost supernatural to those watching her compete. When Olivia graduated high school, her guidance counselor pushed her toward college scholarships. "With your grades and athletic achievements, you could write your own ticket," the counselor insisted. But Olivia had already made up her mind. Much to her parents' surprise, she enlisted in the Army, determined to put her skills to use serving her country. Her recruitment officer initially steered her toward intelligence or support roles. "We need smart people like you in positions where your analytical skills can make a difference," he explained, clearly not recognizing the quiet determination in her eyes. But Olivia held firm. She had heard about the military's sniper programs and knew exactly where she belonged. Basic training presented few challenges for someone with Olivia's physical conditioning and discipline. It was during advanced individual training that her exceptional marksmanship first caught the attention of her instructors. While other recruits struggled with targets at 300 yards, Olivia was consistently grouping shots within a 2-inch circle, at distances that made seasoned drill sergeants take notice. Master Sergeant Frank Wilson, a veteran instructor with 20 years of experience training military marksmen, pulled her aside after watching her outshoot everyone in her class. "I have never seen natural talent like yours," he told her. "But being a military sniper is about more than just hitting targets on a range. Are you prepared for what that role really means?" Olivia met his gaze without hesitation. "I understand. The responsibility, sir. I'm ready for whatever training it takes." The path to becoming one of the military's elite snipers wasn't traditional for anyone, but it was particularly unusual for a woman. When Olivia applied for the Special Operations Sniper School, she faced skepticism at every turn. Many of her male counterparts questioned whether she had the physical endurance for extended missions or the psychological fortitude for the unique demands of the role. During the selection process, candidates were required to carry 80-pound packs through rugged terrain for days with minimal sleep. Some of the men quietly bet that Olivia would drop out within the first 48 hours. Instead, she finished the march in the top third of her class, her face betraying no sign of the physical strain they all endured. The psychological evaluation proved even more challenging. Military psychologists needed to ensure that potential snipers could handle the mental pressures that came with the job. Unlike most soldiers who might engage distant figures in the chaos of battle, snipers often study their targets intimately through high-powered scopes for hours before taking a shot. The psychological impact can be profound for those not mentally prepared. Dr. Eleanor Richards, the lead psychologist for the sniper program, noted something unusual in Olivia's psychological profile. "Most candidates show elevated stress markers during our simulated combat scenarios," Dr. Richards wrote in her assessment. "Specialist Reeves demonstrates remarkable emotional stability under pressure, suggesting an innate ability to compartmentalize. That typically takes years to develop." Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Positioned on a ridge overlooking the target building approximately 800 yards away, Olivia was tasked with eliminating any threats that might endanger the assault team. When armed guards emerged on the rooftop as the raid began, Olivia engaged and neutralized 3 targets in less than 15 seconds, providing the crucial time needed for the assault team to breach the building safely. Her shooting wasn't just accurate, it was surgical, with each shot finding its mark despite the chaos of the operation. Drake observed through his binoculars as Olivia methodically eliminated each threat, her breathing controlled, her movements economical and precise. "In 20 years of combat operations," he told her afterward, "I have never seen anyone shoot with that level of precision under pressure." The North African desert presented unique challenges for sniper operations. Extreme temperature variations between day and night affected both equipment and bullet trajectory. The fine sand could infiltrate even the most carefully maintained weapons, requiring meticulous cleaning regimens. Heat mirages distorted visibility, making range estimation and wind reading particularly difficult. Olivia adapted to these conditions with characteristic thoroughness. She maintained detailed logs of how environmental factors affected her shots, building a personal database that made her increasingly effective with each mission. Her spotter, Corporal Mercer, was initially assigned to her as much for his protective capabilities as his spotting skills, but he quickly recognized that Olivia needed no special protection. Mercer had been skeptical when first paired with a female sniper. His previous experience had been with male partners who approached the job with what he considered a necessary aggressive mindset. Olivia's quiet focus and methodical approach initially concerned him. "I thought she might hesitate when it mattered most," he later admitted. "I couldn't have been more wrong." That perception changed permanently during their third mission together. Intelligence had identified a terrorist cell responsible for coordinating several devastating bombings that had killed dozens of civilians. The cell's leader, a man known as the Phantom for his ability to evade capture for nearly a decade, was reportedly meeting with regional commanders at a compound in a remote valley. Olivia and Mercer established an observation position on a rocky outcropping overlooking the compound, settling in for what might be days of surveillance. They carried minimal equipment, just enough water, food, and ammunition for the mission, and prepared themselves for the punishing heat of day and the bone-chilling cold of desert nights. The waiting is perhaps the most challenging aspect of sniper operations. Hours of absolute stillness, maintaining focus while enduring physical discomfort, staying alert for opportunities that might last only seconds. Olivia approached these challenges with the same patience she'd learned during long Idaho winters, when waiting for the perfect moment often meant the difference between success and failure in both hunting and survival. During their second day of observation, Mercer spotted movement through his high-powered scope. A convoy of 3 vehicles approached the compound, arriving earlier than intelligence had predicted. Olivia smoothly transitioned from her rest position to firing position, her movement so fluid that Mercer barely registered the change. Through her scope, she watched as several figures emerged from the vehicles, identifying the primary target. Among them would require careful observation and patience. The psychological pressure in these moments cannot be overstated. A sniper might have only one opportunity to eliminate a high-value target, and missing could compromise not only the mission, but potentially endanger friendly forces operating in the area. Olivia's training had prepared her for this pressure. But as every professional knows, real combat has a way of testing even the most thorough preparation. Through her scope, she methodically analyzed each figure, looking for the distinctive physical characteristics and behavioral patterns that intelligence had associated with the Phantom. The compound was situated approximately 1,100 yards from their position, a challenging but achievable shot under normal circumstances. However, the afternoon wind was beginning to pick up, creating variable conditions that would significantly affect bullet trajectory. Olivia made minute adjustments to her scope, accounting for estimated wind speed and direction, the slight elevation difference between her position and the target, and the specific ballistic characteristics of her ammunition. Mercer provided continuous updates through their communication system, feeding Olivia information about wind conditions at different points between their position and the target. Modern sniper teams function as integrated units, with the spotter providing crucial environmental data that allows the shooter to make precise adjustments. The relationship requires absolute trust and seamless communication, qualities that Olivia and Mercer had developed through intensive training and previous successful missions. As the afternoon progressed, Olivia maintained her position despite growing physical discomfort. The rocky ground offered little cushioning, and the need to remain absolutely motionless for hours created muscle tension that could affect shot accuracy if not properly managed. She used controlled breathing techniques and mental focus exercises to maintain both physical relaxation and mental clarity, skills that separate elite military snipers from even the most accomplished civilian marksman. The target finally appeared as the sun began to cast long shadows across the desert floor. Through her scope, Olivia could clearly identify the man intelligence had marked as the Phantom, distinguishable by his distinctive limp and the deference shown by others in the compound. After hours of patient observation, the moment she had trained for had arrived, and everything would be tested in the next few crucial seconds. The mathematics of extreme range shooting are complex and unforgiving. At 1,100 yards, Olivia's bullet would take approximately 3 seconds to reach its target, during which time environmental factors would continuously affect its trajectory. A crosswind of just 7 miles per hour could push the bullet several inches off target, while temperature variations could alter the bullet's velocity and consequently its point of impact. Olivia had spent countless hours studying these variables, but theoretical. Knowledge meant nothing without the ability to read real-world conditions and make split-second adjustments. Through her scope, she observed subtle indicators that most people would never notice: the way sand moved across the compound, the slight bend in distant vegetation, even the behavior of birds in the area. Each detail provided critical information about wind patterns and atmospheric conditions that would affect her shot. The target moved with the confidence of someone who believed himself safe at such a distance. Terrorist leaders had learned to respect Western air power and conventional military forces, but they often underestimated the reach and precision of individual snipers. At over half a mile away, the Phantom likely felt secure from direct threat, unaware that he was being observed through a high-powered scope by someone capable of making such an extreme shot. Mercer provided final wind readings and confirmed the range using their laser rangefinder. 1,100 yards, wind variable 6 to 9 miles per hour, quartering from the right, he whispered through their communication system. Olivia made final adjustments to her scope, accounting for all environmental conditions and the specific characteristics of her rifle and ammunition. The weapon Olivia carried was a customized military sniper rifle, modified to her exact specifications. Every component had been carefully selected and precisely adjusted: the trigger pull weight, the stock dimensions, the scope mounting system. The rifle had been zeroed at various ranges under different conditions, and Olivia knew exactly how it would perform in the current environment. Her ammunition was equally specialized. Military sniper ammunition is manufactured to much tighter tolerances than standard rounds, with consistent powder charges, precisely weighted bullets, and cases that have been carefully prepared to ensure uniform performance. Each round Olivia carried had been individually inspected and selected for optimal accuracy at extreme ranges. The breathing technique she employed was the result of years of training and refinement. Snipers learn to control their respiratory cycle to minimize the effects of chest movement on rifle stability. The technique involves taking a deep breath, exhaling partially, then holding that position while making final sight adjustments, and squeezing the trigger. The entire process must be completed within seconds to avoid the physical stress of prolonged breath holding. Olivia's finger found the trigger, applying pressure slowly and steadily. Her custom trigger had been adjusted to break cleanly at exactly 2.5 pounds of pressure, eliminating any uncertainty about when the shot would fire. Her scope remained perfectly aligned with the target as she continued the trigger squeeze. Her body position rock steady despite hours on the uncomfortable ground. The rifle's recoil was substantial but predictable, and Olivia's training allowed her to manage it without losing sight of the target area. Through her scope, she watched as the bullet traveled its arc across the desert expanse, knowing that she would see the impact before hearing the sound of her own shot echo back from the distant rocks. The bullet struck exactly where Olivia had aimed, and the target dropped instantly. Mercer confirmed the hit through his spotting scope, but there was no celebration. Professional snipers understand that their role is tactical, not personal, and successful shots represent the completion of assigned missions rather than cause for emotional reaction. The immediate aftermath of a sniper engagement requires careful observation and documentation. Olivia and Mercer monitored the compound for reactions to the shot, noting the behavior of other individuals in the area and any changes in security posture that might indicate how the enemy was responding to the attack. This information would be crucial for intelligence analysts and mission planners. The psychological impact of the shot extended far beyond the immediate tactical effects. Word of the successful elimination would spread through terrorist networks, creating uncertainty and paranoia among leadership elements. When commanders realize they can be eliminated at ranges they previously considered safe, their behavior changes in ways that often benefit counter-terrorism operations. Olivia's successful Engagement at 1,100 yards established her reputation within the special operations community. But it was just the beginning of her deployment. The terrorist cell she had targeted was part of a larger network, and eliminating one leader often creates opportunities to track and engage other high-value targets as organizations attempt to restructure their command relationships. The technical challenges of the shot had been significant, but the professional challenges Olivia faced were equally demanding. As one of the few female snipers operating in North Africa, she was constantly proving herself to allies and enemies alike. Local security force partners were often uncertain about working with American female soldiers, while terrorist groups placed special bounties on identified female operatives, considering them priority targets. Captain Drake's assessment of Olivia's performance was unequivocal. "She's not just a good female sniper," he reported to his superiors. "She's one of the best snipers I've ever worked with, period." Gender is completely irrelevant when you witness that level of skill and professionalism. This endorsement carried significant weight within the special operations community, where reputation is earned solely through proven performance under the most demanding conditions. The success of Olivia's first major engagement led to her assignment to increasingly challenging missions. Intelligence officers began specifically requesting her unit for operations requiring precision marksmanship at extreme ranges, recognizing that few snipers possessed her combination of technical skill, operational discipline, and field craft. Over the next several months, Olivia and her team conducted operations across the region, disrupting terrorist networks and providing crucial intelligence through their observation capabilities. Each mission added to her experience and refined her already exceptional skills. Her shooting log, which she maintained with scientific precision, showed consistent improvement even from her outstanding starting point. During this period, Olivia developed specialized techniques for dealing with the unique environmental challenges of desert operations. She created a modified shooting position that minimized contact with heat-radiating surfaces during daytime missions. She developed enhanced wind-reading methods that accounted for the invisible thermal currents that could affect bullet flight in desert conditions. These innovations weren't just personal techniques. They became standard practices taught to other snipers operating in similar environments. The relationship between Olivia and Mercer evolved into one of the most effective sniper teams in the theater. Their communication became so streamlined that they often needed only a few words to convey complex information. Mercer's ability to read environmental conditions complemented Olivia's exceptional marksmanship, creating a partnership that was far more effective than either could have been individually. However, the mission that would define Olivia's career and test her abilities to their absolute limit was still ahead. Intelligence had identified a high-value target whose elimination would require a shot at a range that most experts consider beyond the capabilities of even the most skilled military snipers. A shot that would push the boundaries of what was technically achievable and force Olivia to confront the ultimate test of her skills, training, and mental fortitude. The intelligence briefing came on a cool morning in February 2024, when the desert night still held its chill and the first rays of sun were just beginning to warm the team's forward operating base. Major Rachel Harmon, the unit's intelligence officer, laid satellite photographs across the table in their operations center, her expression grave. "We've confirmed the location of Ibrahim Khalid," she announced, pointing to imagery of a remote compound. "He's responsible for planning attacks across 3 countries, and we have a narrow window to eliminate him before he goes back into hiding." Khalid wasn't just another terrorist leader. Intelligence reports indicated he was the mastermind behind a series of coordinated attacks that had killed hundreds of civilians and dozens of military personnel. His tactical innovations had made terrorist operations significantly more lethal, and his elimination was considered a top priority by both American and Allied security forces. The problem was his location and security arrangements. The compound where Khalid was operating sat in a valley surrounded by steep rock formations that made conventional assault extremely difficult. The approach routes were heavily monitored, with lookouts that could provide early warning of any ground movement. Airstrikes were complicated by the presence of civilians in nearby settlements and the risk of diplomatic complications in what was technically a sovereign nation's territory. The only viable option is precision sniper fire, Major Harmon continued, tracing the mountainous terrain surrounding the target area. But we're looking at an extreme range shot, approximately 8 miles from the nearest viable firing position. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Such a shot would be at the very edge of what was considered physically possible with current technology and training. The longest confirmed sniper kill in military history at that time was just over 2 miles, achieved under nearly ideal conditions with specialized equipment. Olivia would be attempting a shot approaching that distance in challenging desert terrain, with standard military equipment. While others in the room calculated the impossibility of the task, Olivia studied the photographs with intense focus. Where others saw obstacles, she saw variables to be measured and accounted for. Her experience had taught her that seemingly impossible shots became achievable when broken down into their component challenges and addressed systematically. The mathematical challenges alone were staggering. Bullet drop at such ranges measured in dozens of feet, and even slight wind variations could push the projectile yards off target. At 8 miles, her bullet would take nearly 3 seconds to reach the target, during which time countless environmental factors would influence its path. Captain Drake's initial reaction was protective rather than tactical. That's beyond what we can reasonably expect anyone to achieve, he argued during the planning session. We'd be setting Olivia up for failure and potentially compromising the entire mission. His concern wasn't about Olivia's abilities. He'd seen her perform what others considered impossible shots, but about the fundamental physics involved in such an extreme range engagement. However, Olivia had already begun her own analysis of the mission requirements. That evening, she spread topographical maps across her bunk and began calculating elevation differences, estimating wind patterns based on terrain features, and identifying the optimal firing position for such an attempt. Her approach was methodical and scientific, treating the challenge as an engineering problem rather than an impossible task. The ballistics calculations were complex beyond normal military requirements. At 8 miles, her bullet would drop approximately 40 feet due to gravity alone. Environmental factors would have cumulative effects over such distance. A slight miscalculation in wind speed could result in missing the target by dozens of yards. Olivia's rifle would need modifications to attempt such a shot. The standard military scope, while excellent for normal sniper operations, lacked the magnification and precision adjustments necessary for extreme range work. The mounting system would need reinforcement to maintain zero under the stress of repeated shots, and the rifle's trigger system would require adjustment for the level of precision necessary. Working with the unit's armorer, Master Sergeant Paul Bennett, Olivia began preparing her equipment for the unprecedented attempt. Bennett had 25 years of experience with military firearms, but even he was skeptical about the feasibility of the mission. "I can give you the best equipment available," he told Olivia, "but physics is physics. At some point, environmental factors become too significant to compensate for." The ammunition selection process was crucial. Standard military sniper ammunition, while highly accurate, wasn't designed for such extreme ranges. Olivia worked with Bennett to identify rounds with optimal ballistic coefficients, bullets designed to maintain velocity and stability over maximum distances. Each round was individually weighed and inspected to ensure consistency that would be critical at such ranges. Training for the shot required recreating similar conditions at available ranges. Olivia spent weeks practicing at maximum available Distances, studying the behavior of her equipment and ammunition under various environmental conditions. She developed an intuitive understanding of how wind, temperature, and atmospheric pressure affected her shots, knowledge that would be crucial when attempting the record-breaking engagement. The psychological preparation was equally important. Olivia knew that when the moment came, she would have only one opportunity. Missing wouldn't just mean mission failure. It would likely alert the target to the threat and eliminate any future opportunities for engagement. The pressure of such a high-stakes shot could affect even the most experienced sniper's performance. Mercer continued as her spotter despite his own reservations about the mission. "I've seen you make shots that shouldn't be possible," he told Olivia during one of their training sessions. "But this is different. We're talking about conditions and distances that push the limits of what's physically possible." His concern was both professional and personal. He'd grown to respect Olivia's abilities enormously, and he didn't want to see her reputation damaged by an impossible mission. But he also understood her determination and knew that if anyone could make such a shot, it would be her. The weather reports for the planned engagement date showed typical late winter conditions in the North African desert, variable winds, significant temperature fluctuations between night and day, and the possibility of dust storms that could further complicate the shot. Olivia incorporated these factors into her planning, developing contingency approaches for different scenarios they might encounter. As the mission date approached, Olivia's confidence grew rather than wavered. Her training had prepared her for extraordinary challenges, and she viewed the 1-8-mile shot as the ultimate test of everything she'd learned. While others focused on the difficulties, she concentrated on the techniques and technologies that made success possible. The mission launch came at 0200 hours on a moonless night in late February, with Olivia's team moving through terrain that seemed designed to test human endurance. The approach to their firing position required a 14-hour hike through some of North Africa's most challenging landscapes, carrying specialized equipment that weighed significantly more than standard sniper gear. Olivia carried her modified rifle system, which now included a specialized scope capable of magnification levels far beyond standard military equipment. The scope alone weighed nearly twice as much as her previous optic, and its mounting system had been reinforced to handle the additional stress. Her ammunition load was carefully selected, 15 rounds of match-grade cartridges, each one individually tested for consistency and optimal ballistic performance. The team moved in single file along rocky ridgelines and dry wadis, navigating by GPS and night vision equipment while maintaining strict communication, discipline that prevented any electronic transmissions that might alert enemy forces to their presence. The silence was broken only by the soft sound of boots on rocky ground and the occasional whispered communication necessary for navigation. Mercer carried the spotting equipment, including a high-powered spotting scope, laser rangefinder, and atmospheric monitoring instruments that would provide crucial environmental data for the shot. His load also included the team's communications equipment and emergency medical supplies, making his pack one of the heaviest in the group. Despite the physical demands, he maintained the steady pace necessary to reach their position before dawn. Captain Drake led the team with the confidence of someone who'd completed similar infiltrations dozens of times, but even he was impressed by Olivia's performance during the approach march. The additional weight of her specialized equipment didn't seem to affect her pace or endurance, and she moved through the difficult terrain with the sure-footedness of someone completely comfortable in harsh environments. The firing position they'd selected was a rocky outcropping on a ridgeline that offered clear sight lines across the valley to the target compound. The position provided natural concealment and multiple escape routes, but it also exposed them to the full force of desert weather conditions. At nearly 4,000 feet elevation, temperature variations could be extreme, and wind patterns were notoriously unpredictable. Arriving at their position as the first hints of dawn appeared on the eastern horizon, Olivia immediately began preparing her shooting platform. The rocky ground offered little natural stability, so she used specialized equipment to create a solid rest for her rifle. Every detail mattered: the angle of her body, the height of her rifle rest, the positioning of her spotting scope and range-finding equipment. Mercer established his observation position slightly offset from Olivia's location, allowing him to provide spotting assistance while maintaining his own field of view of the target area. His spotting scope was connected to a ballistic computer that could rapidly calculate environmental corrections based on real-time atmospheric data. The technology was impressive, but ultimately the success of the shot would depend on Olivia's ability to interpret and apply the information it provided. The target compound came into view as morning sunlight illuminated the valley floor, revealing details that satellite imagery couldn't capture. Olivia could see the building where intelligence indicated Khalid would appear, but she also noticed security arrangements and patterns of movement that suggested the target was taking significant precautions against threats. Through her scope, Olivia began studying the compound's layout and the behavior of its occupants. Even at maximum magnification, individual figures appeared tiny, barely distinguishable from background features, identifying Khalid among the people moving through. The compound would require patience and careful observation, skills that Olivia had developed through months of similar operations. The environmental conditions were challenging, but not impossible. Wind speeds varied between 8 and 12 miles per hour, shifting direction slightly as the desert began to heat up. Temperature was rising steadily, creating thermal currents that would affect bullet trajectory in ways that most snipers would find impossible to calculate. Atmospheric pressure was stable, but the extreme distance meant that even minor variations would have significant effects by the time the bullet reached its target. Olivia maintained her observation position while managing the physical discomfort of lying motionless on rocky ground. The specialized shooting position required her to remain nearly perfectly still for hours, controlling her breathing and minimizing any movement that might affect her rifle's zero. The mental discipline required was as demanding as the physical challenges. Mercer provided continuous updates on environmental conditions, using his instruments to monitor wind speed and direction at various points between their position and the target. Modern sniper teams rely heavily on this kind of environmental data, particularly for extreme range shots where small variations in conditions can have massive effects on bullet trajectory. The psychological pressure of waiting for the target to appear was intense. Intelligence estimates suggested Khalid would emerge from the compound sometime during the morning hours, but the exact timing was uncertain. Olivia needed to maintain peak concentration and physical readiness throughout an extended period, ready to take the shot within seconds of positive identification. Through her scope, she observed the compound's routine activities, learning the patterns that would help her predict when and where the target might appear. Security personnel moved in predictable patterns, workers followed established routines, and the compound's leadership seemed to operate according to schedules that Olivia could begin to anticipate. The distance to the target had been precisely measured using laser range-finding equipment, confirming the 1.8-mile range that made this shot historically significant. At such distance, the target would appear as barely more than a speck through even the most powerful scope, requiring Olivia to rely on identifying features rather than clear facial recognition. She thought back to her childhood in Idaho when her father had taught her to identify animals at great distances not by their appearance, but by their movement patterns. Everything living has a signature way of moving, he'd told her. Learn to recognize that, and you'll see what others miss. That lesson, taught for hunting deer in mountain forests, now served her in the hunt for one of the world's most dangerous terrorists. As mid-morning approached, activity in the compound increased. suggesting that the meeting intelligence had predicted was about to begin. Olivia could see vehicles arriving and additional security personnel taking positions around the compound. The heightened activity indicated that high-value individuals were present, increasing the likelihood that Khalid would soon appear. The moment she had been preparing for was approaching, and everything she had learned through years of training and dozens of successful missions would be tested in the next few minutes. The nearly impossible shot was about to become either a historic achievement or a mission failure with significant consequences. Khalid appeared at 10:32 a.m., emerging from the compound's main building with the confident stride of someone accustomed to authority. Through her high-powered scope, Olivia could barely make out the distinctive features that intelligence photographs had embedded in her memory. The characteristic way he carried his right shoulder slightly higher than his left, his distinctive beard pattern, and most importantly, the way others in the compound responded to his presence. Mercer confirmed the identification through his spotting scope, cross-referencing the figure's appearance with the detailed intelligence briefing they'd memorized. "Target confirmed," he whispered through their communication system. "Bearing 072 degrees, range 3,168 yards. The moment they'd trained for had arrived, and there was no room for error or hesitation." Olivia's breathing slowed automatically as she entered the zone of absolute concentration that separated elite snipers from even accomplished marksmen. Her heart rate, which had been slightly elevated during the long hours of waiting, settled into the steady rhythm that would minimize the effects of pulse on her rifle stability. Every aspect of her physiology was now focused on creating the perfect conditions for a nearly impossible shot. The environmental conditions were as favorable as they were likely to get. Wind speeds had stabilized temporarily at approximately 9 miles per hour, coming from a consistent direction that Olivia could compensate for in her scope adjustments. Atmospheric pressure was steady. Temperature had reached the mid-morning level that her ballistic calculations were based on, and visibility was excellent across the entire 1.8-mile distance to the target. Mercer provided final environmental readings and confirmed the ballistic solution using their portable computer. The calculations were staggering in their complexity, accounting for bullet drop of over 40 feet, wind drift of several yards, the effects of altitude on air density, temperature variations along the bullet's flight path, and even the rotation of the Earth itself, which at such ranges could affect point of impact. Olivia made her final scope adjustments with movements so precise they seemed almost mechanical. Each click of the adjustment knobs represented specific corrections for the environmental conditions they'd measured, translated into the minute. Changes in barrel angle necessary to place her bullet on target at such extreme range. The mathematics involved were beyond what most people could comprehend, but Olivia had internalized them through thousands of hours of training and practice. Her mind processed the variables not as abstract numbers, but as a complete picture of the bullet's journey from her rifle to the target. The target was moving slowly across an open area between buildings, providing a window of opportunity that might last only seconds. Olivia's crosshairs tracked the figure through her scope, leading the target to account for his movement and the nearly 3 seconds her bullet would take to cover the 1.8-mile distance. The calculation had to be perfect at such range. Even tiny errors in target leading would result in complete misses. Through her scope, Olivia could see other figures in the compound going about their daily activities, unaware that death was aimed at their leader from a mountain position they couldn't even see. The surreal nature of modern sniper warfare was never more apparent than in these moments. The target lived his final seconds in complete normalcy while Olivia prepared to end his life from a distance that rendered her invisible and invulnerable. The trigger pressure built slowly and steadily as Olivia applied the technique she'd perfected through years of training. Her breathing had reached the optimal point in her respiratory cycle. Her rifle was rock steady on its bipod rest, and her scope showed perfect alignment with the target. The trigger brake would come at exactly 2.5 pounds of pressure, and Olivia's muscle memory would ensure that the shot fired at the precise moment of optimal stability. The rifle's report echoed across the valley like distant thunder, and Olivia maintained her scope picture through the recoil to observe the bullet's impact. At 8 miles, she would see the hit before hearing her own shot echo back from the distant mountains. The bullet's flight time of nearly 3 seconds felt like an eternity as Olivia watched through her scope for confirmation of the shot's success or failure. Mercer tracked the bullet's flight through his spotting scope, watching for the telltale signs of impact that would confirm the hit. At such extreme range, even a successful shot might not produce immediately visible results, particularly if the target was only wounded rather than killed outright. The team needed clear confirmation before they could consider the mission successful. The bullet struck exactly where Olivia had aimed. Khalid dropped instantly, his figure crumpling to the ground in a way that left no doubt about the shot's effectiveness. Through their scopes, Olivia and Mercer could see the immediate reaction of other figures in the compound. The confusion, the scrambling for cover, the frantic search for threats they couldn't see or understand. The successful hit at 8 miles represented more than just an exceptional shot. It was a validation of everything Olivia had worked toward since her first day of sniper training. The combination of natural ability, intensive preparation, specialized equipment, and favorable conditions had produced a result that many experts had considered impossible. She had not only eliminated a high-value target, but had also set a new standard for what could be achieved through precision marksmanship. Mercer confirmed the hit through their communication equipment, transmitting the mission success back to their command element. The elimination of Ibrahim Khalid would have immediate tactical effects and longer-term strategic implications, disrupting terrorist operations across multiple countries and demonstrating the reach and precision of counter-terrorism capabilities. But there was no time for celebration or reflection. The compound security forces were already reacting to the attack, and while they couldn't determine the source of the shot, they would be searching for threats and potentially calling for reinforcements. Olivia and her team needed to begin their withdrawal immediately before enemy forces could organize a response that might compromise their escape. The near impossible shot had been made, but the mission wouldn't be complete until the team returned safely to their forward operating base. Olivia began breaking down her equipment with the same methodical precision she'd applied to taking the shot, preparing for the long journey back through hostile territory, with the knowledge that she had just achieved something that would be remembered in military history. The legend of Olivia Reeves's 8-mile shot was born in those few seconds, but the full implications of her achievement would only become apparent in the days and weeks that followed. The withdrawal from their firing position began immediately after Olivia confirmed a successful hit on Khalid. The team had rehearsed this phase of the operation extensively, knowing that their survival depended on rapid movement away from the area before enemy forces could organize a response. Olivia packed her specialized equipment with practiced efficiency, her movements quick but deliberate to avoid leaving any trace of their presence. The rocky outcropping that had provided their perfect firing position now became a potential trap if they remained too long. Mercer monitored enemy communications through their intercept equipment, listening for any indication that hostile forces had determined the general area from which the shot had come. So far, the enemy seemed confused about the nature and source of the attack, but that confusion wouldn't last indefinitely. Captain Drake had positioned himself at the team's rally point approximately 600 meters from the firing position, where he could provide early warning of any enemy approach while maintaining communication with higher headquarters. His radio crackled, with updates from intelligence sources monitoring the target area, confirming that the compound was in chaos and that multiple vehicles were departing in various directions. The descent from their mountain position required different skills than the approach march. Moving downhill with heavy equipment while maintaining operational security presented unique challenges, particularly when speed was essential but noise. Discipline remained critical. Olivia found herself drawing on childhood experiences hiking through Idaho's rugged terrain with her father, using lessons learned in peaceful circumstances to navigate a combat withdrawal. Mercer's intercept equipment began picking up increased radio traffic from enemy sources, indicating that hostile forces were beginning to organize search efforts. The conversations he monitored suggested that they understood they were dealing with a long-range sniper attack, but they had wildly underestimated the distance involved, focusing their search efforts on areas much closer to the compound than Olivia's actual firing position. This miscalculation provided the team with crucial time to increase their distance from the area before enemy forces could organize an effective pursuit. Olivia's record-breaking shot had been so far beyond what the terrorists considered possible that they were searching in entirely wrong locations, giving her team a significant head start in their escape. The physical demands of the withdrawal were intense. The team moved through terrain that challenged even their exceptional physical conditioning, carrying equipment loads that would have been difficult under normal circumstances and were now complicated by the need for speed and stealth. Olivia's modified rifle system, which had enabled her historic shot, now became a burden that slowed their movement through narrow mountain passes. As they descended toward their planned extraction point, Olivia reflected on the magnitude of what she'd accomplished. The 8-mile shot wasn't just a personal achievement. It represented a new benchmark for what was possible in military sniper operations. The techniques and technologies that had made the shot successful would influence sniper training and equipment development for years to come. The team's extraction was complicated by deteriorating weather conditions as afternoon dust storms moved through the valley systems. The same atmospheric conditions that had stabilized enough to allow Olivia's long-range shot now created challenges for their helicopter pickup, with visibility dropping rapidly and wind conditions becoming increasingly dangerous for aviation. Operations. Mercer continued monitoring enemy communications as they moved, providing updates on search efforts that remained focused on incorrect areas. The enemy's continued confusion about the source and nature of the attack was providing the team with the time they needed to reach their extraction point, but Olivia knew that their safety margin would decrease as hostile forces expanded their search areas. The extraction landing zone was a small clearing in a valley system approximately 10 miles from their firing position, chosen for its accessibility to helicopters while remaining far enough from known enemy positions to minimize the risk of interference. The team had identified alternate extraction points in case weather or enemy activity made their primary site unusable, but reaching those alternatives would require additional hours of movement through increasingly dangerous terrain. As they approached the extraction zone, Olivia's thoughts turned to the broader implications of her achievement. Khalid's elimination would disrupt terrorist operations across multiple countries, but more importantly, it would demonstrate to enemy forces that counter-terrorism capabilities extended far beyond what they had previously considered possible. The psychological impact of such a shot could be as significant as its immediate tactical effects. The sound of approaching helicopters reached them as they entered the extraction zone, right on schedule despite the challenging weather conditions. The pilot's skill in navigating mountain terrain under deteriorating visibility impressed even Olivia, who had grown up around skilled bush pilots who regularly flew in difficult conditions in the Idaho backcountry. The helicopter's arrival represented safety and mission success, but it also marked the beginning of a new phase in Olivia's military career. Drake's debrief with higher headquarters began before they even reached their forward operating base. His report emphasized not just the successful elimination of a high-value target, but the unprecedented nature of Olivia's achievement and its implications for future operations. The 8-mile shot would require verification and documentation. that met the standards necessary for official recognition. The intelligence value of the mission extended beyond the elimination of Khalid. The team's observation of the compound had provided valuable information about terrorist security procedures, communication methods, and organizational structures that would be useful for future operations. Olivia's extended observation through her high-powered scope had revealed details that conventional surveillance methods might have missed. As their helicopter flew through the dust-filled valleys toward base, Olivia watched the terrain below and thought about the shot that had just changed her life forever. The rocky outcropping where she'd made military history was already invisible in the distance, but the memory of those crucial seconds would remain with her always. She had proven that with proper training, equipment, and conditions, the limits of what was considered possible could be expanded beyond previous imagination. The mission's success would have implications far beyond Olivia's personal achievement. Military sniper programs would need to reconsider their training standards and equipment requirements in light of what she had demonstrated was possible. The techniques and technologies that had enabled her record-breaking shot would be studied, refined, and incorporated into future training programs. But for now, Olivia was simply a soldier returning from a successful mission, carrying equipment that had performed flawlessly and memories of a shot that would be discussed in military circles for decades to come. The impossible had become possible through a combination of skill, preparation, and favorable circumstances that might never align again in exactly the same way. The debriefing process began within hours of Olivia's return to the forward operating base with intelligence officers, ballistics experts, and senior commanders all eager to understand exactly how she'd achieved what many considered impossible. The conference room filled with maps, photographs, and technical equipment as specialists began the detailed analysis necessary to verify and document the record-breaking shot. Major Harmon led the technical debrief, working with Olivia to reconstruct every detail of the engagement. The laser rangefinder data confirmed a 1.8-mile distance, while environmental monitoring equipment provided precise records of wind speed, direction, temperature, and atmospheric pressure at the time of the shot. The mathematical precision required for such an engagement demanded equally precise documentation. Olivia's shooting log, which she'd maintained throughout her deployment, provided crucial evidence of her progressive skill development and the systematic approach she'd taken to extreme-range marksmanship. The entries showed a pattern of increasingly difficult shots as she built the experience and confidence necessary for the ultimate challenge she had just completed. Mercer's role as spotter was equally important to the mission's documentation. His precise environmental readings and target confirmation had been essential to the shot's success, and his testimony provided independent verification of the conditions and procedures Olivia had used. The partnership between sniper and spotter is always crucial, but at such extreme ranges, it becomes absolutely critical to success. The ballistics analysis was complex beyond normal military requirements. Experts calculated that Olivia's bullet had dropped approximately 46 feet during its flight, had been affected by wind drift of nearly 8 feet, and had overcome atmospheric resistance that significantly reduced its velocity over the 1.8-mile distance. The bullet had remained supersonic throughout its flight, but barely so by the time it reached the target. Captain Drake's tactical assessment focused on the mission's broader implications rather than just the technical achievement. His report emphasized how Olivia's shot had eliminated a high-value target while avoiding the risks and collateral damage associated with conventional assault methods or airstrikes. The precision of the engagement had achieved maximum tactical effect with minimal footprint. The intelligence gathered during the mission proved as valuable as the elimination of Khalid himself. Olivia's extended observation of the compound through her high-powered scope had revealed security procedures, daily routines, and organizational relationships that would be useful for future operations against terrorist networks in the region. Word of Olivia's achievements spread rapidly through military channels, reaching senior Pentagon officials and special operations commanders who understood the significance of what she'd accomplished. The shot represented not just individual excellence, but a demonstration of capabilities that would influence military planning and equipment development for years to come. The verification process required multiple independent confirmations of the shot's distance and conditions. GPS coordinates were checked and rechecked. Environmental data was analyzed by meteorological specialists, and ballistics experts ran computer simulations to confirm that the shot was not only possible, but had been executed with remarkable precision given the challenging conditions. Olivia's equipment was also thoroughly examined and tested to ensure that her rifle and scope had performed within normal parameters during the shot. The specialized modifications that had enabled the extreme range engagement were documented in detail, providing valuable information for future equipment development and sniper training programs. The psychological evaluation that followed was standard procedure after any high-stress combat engagement, but Olivia's case was unique given the unprecedented nature of her achievement. Military psychologists wanted to understand how she'd managed the pressure of attempting something that had never been accomplished before, and how the success affected her mental state and confidence. Dr. Marcus Reynolds, the lead psychologist for the sniper program, conducted the post-mission assessment and found her remarkably unchanged by her historic achievement. She approaches this success with the same methodical mindset she's always had, Dr. Reynolds noted in his report. There's satisfaction in accomplishing something difficult, but no apparent ego inflation or unrealistic assessment of her abilities. The media attention began almost immediately despite military efforts to maintain operational security. Olivia's achievement had occurred during the period when positive military news was rare, and the story of a young woman from rural Idaho setting a new standard for sniper excellence captured public imagination in ways that military public affairs officers found both exciting and challenging to manage. River Bend, Idaho became a focal point for media attention as reporters sought to understand the background that had produced such an exceptional soldier. Her high school rifle team coach gave interviews describing her natural ability, while her former employers talked about her work ethic and determination. The narrative of a small-town girl achieving military greatness resonated with audiences across the country, inspiring young women who had never considered military service as a pathway to excellence. Technical aspects of Olivia's shot became subjects of intense discussion among civilian marksmanship enthusiasts and military professionals alike. Forums and publications devoted to long-range shooting analyzed every detail of her equipment, techniques, and conditions, with some experts initially expressing skepticism about the possibility of such a shot until official documentation became available. International military observers also took notice of Olivia's achievement, recognizing its implications for sniper training and operations in their own forces. The techniques and technologies that had enabled her success represented advances that could influence military doctrine and equipment procurement decisions across multiple allied nations. Olivia's immediate future became a subject of considerable discussion among her superiors. Her unique skills and proven performance made her valuable for continued operational deployment, but her achievement also created opportunities for training and development roles that could benefit the broader military sniper community. The recommendation process for appropriate recognition of Olivia's achievement began immediately, with multiple levels of command endorsing her for significant military decorations. The unprecedented nature of her accomplishment required careful consideration of which awards would appropriately recognize both the technical achievement and its tactical significance. Captain Drake's recommendation emphasized that Olivia's shot represented more than individual excellence. It demonstrated the potential for properly trained and equipped snipers to achieve results that expanded the boundaries of what military planners considered possible. His endorsement carried significant weight given his reputation and experience in special operations. As the immediate excitement of the achievement began to settle, Olivia found herself facing decisions about her future that she hadn't anticipated when she first enlisted. The success of her 1.8-mile shot had opened doors and created opportunities that would shape not just her military career, but potentially her entire life trajectory. The formal recognition of Olivia's achievement came 3 months later in a ceremony that brought together senior military officials, family members, and representatives from the marksmanship community. The event was held at the Pentagon, with Olivia's parents traveling from Idaho to witness their daughter receive military decorations that reflected not just her individual accomplishment, but its broader significance to American military capabilities. Olivia's mother, Catherine Reeves, had always believed in her daughter's potential, but seeing her receive the Distinguished Service Cross from a 4-star general was a moment that exceeded her wildest dreams. She always had this remarkable focus, even as a little girl, Catherine told reporters afterward. When she set her mind to something, there was no stopping her. Her father's pride was evident but tempered by his understanding of what such recognition meant about the dangers his daughter had faced. Michael Reeves, the forest ranger who had first taught Olivia to shoot, stood tall during the ceremony, his weathered face showing both pride and a father's concern for a daughter whose skills had taken her into harm's way. The citation specifically mentioned the unprecedented nature of Olivia's 1.8-mile shot and its tactical significance in eliminating a terrorist leader who had been responsible for numerous attacks on civilians and military personnel. The award recognized not just marksmanship excellence, but the courage required to attempt something that military experts had considered beyond the realm of possibility. General Robert Westfield, who presented the award, emphasized that Olivia's achievement represented the evolution of military capabilities through the combination of advanced training, sophisticated equipment, and individual excellence. Staff Sergeant Reeves didn't just set a record, General Westfield stated during the ceremony. She redefined what we believe is possible, and in doing so, has changed how we will approach precision operations for years to come. The technical analysis of Olivia's shot had been completed by teams of ballistics experts, meteorologists, and military engineers who confirmed every aspect of the engagement. Their findings were incorporated into updated training materials for military sniper programs, ensuring that future marksmen would benefit from the techniques and insights that had made the record-breaking shot possible. Olivia's achievement influenced equipment procurement decisions across multiple military branches, with weapons manufacturers competing to develop systems capable of supporting similar extreme-range engagements. The scope modifications that had enabled her shot became the basis for new optical systems designed specifically for ultra-long-range precision shooting. The psychological impact of Olivia's success extended far beyond the immediate military effects. Terrorist forces in North Africa began altering their behavior patterns, with commanders becoming reluctant to expose themselves at distances they had previously considered safe. Intelligence reports indicated that hostile leadership was investing significant resources in countermeasures against long-range sniper threats. Training programs were modified to incorporate lessons learned from Olivia's achievement, with emphasis placed on the systematic approach she had taken to developing extreme-range capabilities. Her shooting logs and training records became study materials for advanced sniper courses, providing insight into the progressive skill development necessary for such achievements. Olivia's post-deployment assignment reflected the military's recognition of her unique value as both an operational asset and a training resource. She was assigned to the Special Operations Sniper Training Facility at Fort Bragg, where she would work with the most advanced sniper training programs while remaining available for special missions that required her exceptional skills. The transition From combat deployment to training assignment presented new challenges for Olivia. Teaching others to achieve excellence required different skills than personal achievement, and she found herself needing to analyze and articulate techniques that she had previously performed through instinct and muscle memory developed over years of practice. Her first students were experienced military snipers who had achieved significant success in their own careers, but wanted to learn the techniques that had enabled Olivia's record-breaking performance. Working with these seasoned professionals required her to develop teaching methods that could convey complex concepts to individuals who already possessed advanced skills. During her first week as an instructor, Olivia faced subtle skepticism from some of her students, veterans who had trouble believing that her achievement had been skill rather than luck. She addressed this directly, taking them to the range and demonstrating not just her exceptional accuracy, but her ability to explain exactly why each shot went where it did. Extreme range shooting isn't magic, she told them during her first lecture. It's applied physics, consistent technique, and absolute attention to detail. Anyone can learn the principles. The difference comes in how precisely you apply them. The research and development implications of Olivia's achievement extended beyond immediate military applications. Universities and private research institutions began studying the ballistics and human factors involved in extreme-range precision shooting, leading to advances in areas ranging from material science to human performance optimization. Olivia's story became a recruiting tool for military sniper programs, demonstrating that exceptional achievement was possible for individuals willing to commit to the intensive training and preparation required. Her background as a small town, Idaho forest ranger's daughter particularly resonated with rural audiences who had previously considered military sniper roles beyond their reach. Young women were especially inspired by Olivia's accomplishment. Military recruitment offices reported a significant increase in female applicants, expressing interest in combat specialties, citing Olivia as their inspiration. She had become a symbol of excellence that transcended gender, proving that the most elite military roles were determined by skill and dedication rather than physical attributes. The international attention Olivia's achievement received led to invitations to speak at military conferences and civilian marksmanship events around the world. These opportunities allowed her to share insights about extreme-range shooting while learning from other experts in the field, furthering her own development as both a practitioner and teacher. Documentary filmmakers and book publishers approached Olivia with offers to tell her story in various media formats. While she remained focused on her military career, the attention reflected public fascination with her achievement and its representation of American military excellence in an era when positive military news was often overshadowed by broader conflicts. The verification of Olivia's shot by independent experts eliminated any lingering skepticism about its authenticity, with multiple international organizations recognizing it as one of the longest confirmed sniper kills in military history. The achievement was formally entered into military records and became part of the official documentation of counterterrorism capabilities. Olivia's achievement had implications for military doctrine and tactics that extended far beyond sniper operations. Her success demonstrated that individual excellence, when supported by proper training and equipment, could achieve strategic effects that traditionally required much larger military resources. This understanding influenced planning for future conflicts where precision capabilities might be more valuable than conventional firepower. 6 months after her return from deployment, Olivia received a phone call that would present her with perhaps her greatest challenge yet. General Westfield, who had presented her Distinguished Service Cross, wanted her to develop and lead a new program specifically focused on training female snipers for special operations roles. "We've identified a strategic need," the general explained. "There are operational environments where female operators have distinct advantages, And we need to develop a cadre of women with your level of skill. You've proven it's possible. Now we need you to show others the path. The program would be the first of its kind, a specialized training course designed to identify and develop female service members with exceptional marksmanship potential. Olivia would have complete authority to design the selection criteria, training methodology, and qualification standards. The responsibility was enormous, but Olivia approached it with the same methodical thoroughness she brought to everything. She spent weeks researching the physiological and psychological factors that contributed to sniper excellence, consulting with experts in sports psychology, vision science, and human performance. She designed a selection process that looked beyond traditional military metrics to identify candidates with the specific attributes that her research indicated were most important for sniper excellence: perceptual processing speed, fine motor control, emotional stability under stress, and spatial reasoning ability. The program launched 6 months later with 12 candidates selected from hundreds of applicants across all military branches. These women came from diverse backgrounds: former competitive shooters, hunters, military police, and intelligence specialists who had demonstrated exceptional potential. On the first day of training, Olivia gathered her candidates on the range at dawn. "Look around you," she told them. "Each of you is here because you've shown potential for extraordinary achievement. I'm not here to teach you how to be good enough. I'm here to show you how to be exceptional." Her training philosophy emphasized fundamentals mastered to perfection rather than advanced techniques learned superficially. The candidates spent the first month focusing entirely on breath control, trigger discipline, and position stability, before ever attempting a shot beyond 300 yards. Extreme range shooting isn't about learning new skills, Olivia explained. It's about perfecting basic skills to a level most people don't believe is possible. The difference between a good shooter and an exceptional one isn't knowledge, it's precision of execution. The program was more demanding than anything the military had previously implemented for sniper training. Candidates were required to maintain shooting logs that documented every round fired, with detailed notes on environmental conditions and their physiological state. They learned to read wind patterns by observing natural indicators and to calculate complex ballistic solutions without electronic assistance. Olivia pushed her trainees to their physical and mental limits, but she never asked them to do anything she couldn't demonstrate herself. When one candidate questioned whether a particular shot was even possible, Olivia would step up, make the shot, and then methodically explain every factor she had considered in the process. 8 of the original 12 candidates completed the 9-month program, each demonstrating marksmanship skills that far exceeded standard military qualifications. Their final exercise required them to make a 1,500-yard shot under variable wind conditions with limited time for preparation, a test that would have been considered nearly impossible before Olivia's achievement had reset expectations. All 8 succeeded, validating not just their individual skills, but the training methodology Olivia had developed. The program's graduates would go on to join elite units where their unique capabilities would add new dimensions to special operations. Capabilities. The success of Olivia's training program led to its expansion and eventual integration into standard sniper training protocols. The techniques she developed weren't just for female snipers. They represented a fundamental advancement in how military marksmen were trained and evaluated. 5 years after her record-breaking shot, Olivia Reeves had become one of the most respected figures in military marksmanship. Her classroom at Fort Bragg was filled with advanced ballistics computers, environmental monitoring equipment, and examples of the specialized weaponry that made extreme range shooting possible. But she always began her courses with the same fundamental message that had guided her own development. "Equipment doesn't make the shot," she would tell each new class of advanced marksmen. "Training, preparation, and mental discipline make the shot. The equipment just makes it possible to apply those fundamentals at distances that previous generations couldn't imagine. Her teaching methodology emphasized the systematic approach that had enabled her historic achievement, breaking down complex challenges into manageable components that students could master progressively. The students who came to learn from Olivia were already accomplished snipers in their own right, many with multiple combat deployments and significant achievements. Teaching them required her to constantly refine her own understanding of the techniques and principles that had made her success possible. Olivia's research and development work with military contractors led to advances in sniper equipment that benefited the entire precision shooting community. Her insights into the requirements for extreme range engagements influenced the design of new rifle systems, optical equipment, and ammunition specifically optimized for ultra-long distance shooting. The knowledge gained from her 1.8-mile shot continued to produce practical benefits years after the achievement. The psychological aspects of extreme range shooting became a particular focus of Olivia's teaching and research. She had learned that the mental challenges of attempting shots at unprecedented distances were often more significant than the technical obstacles, and she developed training methods specifically designed to prepare marksmen for the pressure and isolation of record-breaking attempts. Her collaboration with sports psychologists and performance specialists led to new understanding of how elite marksmen managed stress, maintained concentration, and executed complex tasks under extreme pressure. These insights found applications not just in military training but in civilian competitive shooting and other high-performance activities that required similar mental discipline. Olivia's personal life had evolved significantly since her deployment to North Africa. She had married Mercer, her former spotter, in a ceremony that brought together military colleagues and family members from Idaho, in a celebration that reflected both her rural roots and her military achievements. Their partnership, which had been forged in combat conditions, had developed into a personal relationship built on mutual respect and shared experiences. The couple's work at Fort Bragg allowed them to continue collaborating professionally while building a life together that balanced military service with personal happiness. Mercer had become an instructor in advanced spotting techniques, working with Olivia to develop integrated training programs that emphasized the critical relationship between snipers and their spotters. Olivia's parents visited Fort Bragg regularly, marveling at the transformation of their daughter from a quiet forest ranger's kid who could hit distant targets into an internationally recognized expert in precision marksmanship. Their pride in her achievements was matched by their amazement at the technical sophistication of modern military sniper operations, which bore little resemblance to the hunting they had taught her as a child. The broader impact of Olivia's achievement continued to influence military operations around the world. Her shot had demonstrated capabilities that changed how military planners approached certain types of missions, leading to increased emphasis on precision operations that could achieve strategic effects with minimal resources and reduced risk of collateral damage. International military exchanges brought students from allied nations to learn from Olivia's expertise, creating relationships that strengthened cooperative capabilities and shared understanding of advanced sniper techniques. Her reputation had become a diplomatic asset, with foreign military leaders specifically requesting opportunities for their best marksmen to train under her instruction. The civilian marksmanship community had also embraced Olivia's achievement as an inspiration for their own pursuits of extreme range accuracy. Her techniques and equipment choices influenced competitive shooting sports, with manufacturers developing civilian versions of the specialized gear that had enabled her military success. She occasionally participated in civilian competitions, using these events to maintain her skills while supporting the broader shooting community. Olivia's autobiography, published in collaboration with a military historian, became a bestseller that introduced her story to audiences far beyond the military and shooting communities. The book emphasized not just her record-breaking achievement, but the values of dedication, preparation, and perseverance that had made it possible, inspiring readers to pursue excellence in their own fields. Speaking engagements took Olivia to universities, corporate events, and leadership conferences where her story served as an example of how individuals could overcome seemingly impossible challenges through systematic preparation and unwavering commitment. Her message resonated with diverse audiences who found inspiration in her journey from small-town Idaho to military history. During one such event at a prestigious university, a young woman approached Olivia after her presentation. "I grew up believing there were things I couldn't do because of who I am," the student confessed. "Your story showed me that limits are often just in our minds." That interaction crystallized for Olivia the true significance of her achievement. Beyond the military importance, beyond the technical accomplishment, her 1.8-mile shot had become a powerful symbol of human potential, proof that with proper preparation and unwavering determination, the boundaries of what seems possible can be pushed far beyond conventional wisdom. The legacy of Olivia's shot extended far beyond the immediate military effects of eliminating Ibrahim Khalid. It had demonstrated that human potential, when properly developed and supported, could achieve results that expanded the boundaries of what was considered possible. This lesson applied not just to military operations, but to any field where individual excellence could produce extraordinary results. As Olivia looked toward the future, she remained committed to military service, while exploring opportunities to share her expertise with broader audiences. Her achievement had opened doors she never could have imagined when she first enlisted, but her fundamental dedication to excellence in service remained unchanged from her early days in Idaho. The story of Olivia Reeves's impossible shot had become legend, but the woman herself remained focused on the ongoing work of developing the next generation of military marksmen and contributing to the continuous improvement of precision shooting capabilities. Her record might eventually be broken, but the principles and techniques she had demonstrated would continue to influence military operations for decades to come. The nearly impossible shot had become possible through a combination of natural ability, intensive training, advanced equipment, and favorable conditions that might never align in exactly the same way again. But Olivia had proven that with proper preparation and unwavering determination, the limits of human achievement could be pushed far beyond what previous generations had thought possible. In her office at Fort Bragg, among the medals, photographs, and technical manuals that documented her career, Olivia kept a simple framed quote that had guided her from the beginning. "The difference between impossible and possible lies in a person's determination." Her 1.8-mile shot hadn't just eliminated a terrorist leader. It had eliminated the word impossible from her vocabulary and inspired countless others to do the same. Up next, you've got two more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.